Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Jason Hunt here, inviting you to join us every Saturday morning for news, the week's headlines in science fiction, fantasy, horror, comic books, video games, plus Comic-Con updates and the weather, and the occasional interview along the way. We call it Good Morning Multiverse. We hope you join us every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, right here on Sci-Fi for Me TV.
Madness Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content. Tune in and subscribe to Comic Talk with Pops Van Zant on YouTube.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, sitting here in the dark, turning on the lights overhead. And this, your eyes do not deceive you. This is the second time on a Saturday, usually our day off, that we are on the air. We were on here this afternoon speaking with Bob Batchelor and Glenn Fleming, talking about Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, both of them having written books about each of them. And now we are on tonight with a special episode of meeting our crowdfunding creators. So who do we have on tap for tonight? Can anybody tell?
Who is that? Timmy.
Yes, it is Tim Olson, creator of Melvin. Tim, how you doing?
My favorite South Park character. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. It's been a weird day. Like I said, I got up. For some reason, I managed to sleep until 11:30 today because I didn't set an alarm. And I was like, okay, well, that happened. Glad I woke up in time for my show. So I've had like 3 hours of solid daylight today before it started getting dark. It's feel like a vampire.
Yeah, I had a long week too. a crazy week started.
Yeah, and it's like I told my my director that I'll be running these programs all weekend here to get these numbers crunched out. I've got some huge queries running. They'll be ready by Monday morning. And I'm like, crap, that's 5 hours I didn't get of running time. So I'll be running them through the night. Oh man. So you did your first crowdfunder and you felt like it was worth coming back for.
Yeah, well, that's Captain Infinity.
Hail, Captain.
Hey, Captain. Yeah, well, I didn't even like I got like a third of what I was asking first time, but I felt like maybe my focus should be on building an audience, so I still sent out books. And this time I decided to maybe rethink how much I ask when I do a crowdfunding thing, and I got through. It's 33 days left, and I've already met that goal. So
yeah, you're over goal 143% because Indiegogo, the one good thing they do is give you a percentage of how far you are along.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking about like trying to repeat what I did the last time and get people their books at a reasonable time.
So how far along are you in the production process for number 2 here? I mean,
I'm just running test copies because the campaign has like 33 days left. So I want to make sure that when I send them to the printer that they come out right. And I ran a test copy of just 10 just to see how that turned out, and it turned out fine.
Oh, but it's finished.
Yeah, it's finished. Yeah. I just
oh, that's excellent.
But it came out in the right order.
It's not an Australian manga?
No, it's not a Korean manga.
Okay.
Korean style manga, whatever the hell that means.
It's a long story.
Yeah, I know the story. I just it's like I don't know if the Koreans do manga. It seems to be a strictly Japanese thing, and it just means
they
comic book in Japanese.
They do manhwa. That's what their comics are called. They're called a manhwa. So it's very similar pronunciation, but just a character.
It's sequential art, regardless.
Exactly. It's comics.
Comics, regardless. Yeah.
Yeah, and
personally, I think, and I thought this every time I think of that story, I was like, maybe you should like look at them yourself before you go on camera, and that way, if it looks good, then you come out and say you repackage it, you tape it back up, and then you act like you're opening it for the first time.
Yes, there you go.
I mean, I'm not stupid.
Yeah, but yet it's only over here that we segregate comics and manga. Because if we don't, it hurts our sales numbers.
Yeah, I don't know, but as you know,
never read any. I've never read any manga. I'm sure I've read a couple, like when they were in floppies from Viz. Like I seem to remember something like Vampire Princess Mia.
Yeah.
And I still didn't get it. I didn't get the story.
I think I had
all read the same to me.
I had some Fist of the North Star. It was like a sequel series to the Fist of the North Star. Because I seen the anime, and I always thought that was cool.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the 80s. Comic shop owner said, "You got to see this," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm watching." And it was a sword fight, and the guy just kind of stood there after he got swiped at a few times, and then his body started sliding apart. I'm like, "Oh, I haven't seen that in a cartoon before." Of course, now it's an old hat. It's a trope almost that you see that happen.
Oh yeah, I thought that cartoon was pretty cool. He just said, "You're already dead" or something. He'd walk away from him, and they explode. He didn't even he'd hit him really quick and then walk away, and then they just blow up.
Yeah, I think he even pulled somebody's heart out their chest when he punched him once.
Oh yeah, or he caused someone's head to almost explode.
Yeah, it had its cool moments. I mean, it was definitely over the top action wise. It was pioneering. It's like, again, it's stuff you see, you look at now, it's like, oh, made that guy's head explode. We've seen that before.
I saw late 90s. I think I seen my first actual. That might have been like in the 80s with like Robotech or Star Blazer or something like that. But I really wasn't exposed too much to the Japanese cartoons.
Well,
until the
as
end.
a kid, it was Speed Racer, Johnny Sacco, Astro Boy. Those things I was
Oh
seeing on
yeah.
like, and that counts. It really does count, but it was
Yeah.
sort of like anime light because it had been edited for the American audiences, so a lot of
Yeah.
stuff had been taken out.
A friend of mine had Ghost in the Shell, Ninja Scroll, and that was about it. Really, that's the first two actual unedited, just over the top animes I've ever seen. Like, oh my god, that poor chick ripped her own arms off trying to open that hatch. Yeah, I was like, good
Yes.
lord.
Oh well, yeah. Take the panels away here so I can make room for the Kickstarter, or not the Kickstarter. Ugh, bite my
Yeah,
tongue. Um,
wrong platform.
the platform, yeah. It's although they're pretty much the same now, I
There
think.
was a video, but I was thinking about talking to Chris and having the beginning redone.
Well, yeah, I looked for one because I would have played it at the beginning of the show, but there wasn't one, so we
Yeah, I
improvised.
decided to kind of go back. I hadn't had a chance to go talk to him about it, but it's a pretty simple, straightforward campaign. There's no fancy bells and whistles.
So who is your character, Melvin? Here, you told me before with issue number 1,
The
but that
first issue, he
oh,
was a mercenary hired to save a princess from a dangerous cult. Now this is them going back, him delivering her back to her father. They crash because one of the power cells to the ship was damaged or sabotaged. And in order to get the part they need to liberate a town from the cult. And no, it's
that's a
pretty
lot
much
of work for a
straightforward.
part.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't just call Spaceship Zone and
No. There's no mechanic out in the middle of nowhere.
now he's got a unique look to him. Is he made of gold or bronze or something? I mean,
No, he just has yellow skin. That was kind of a tip of the hat to the Simpsons. But
oh okay,
I came up with that decision when people were making a big deal about quote unquote representation. There was big article about why isn't there a black X-Men? I'm like, what does that have to do with a really good story? I mean, you know, but there were
yeah,
black X-Men. So what are they talking about?
yeah, they were well. A lot of these people have not. Comic books were invented in the year 2000. Um,
Apparently,
yeah, and even then they have to ignore a lot of stuff to
yeah.
make the statements they make.
So I decided that in my comic book, nobody's going to get represented. It's a work of fiction. Buy it, read it, enjoy it. You
Yeah,
know.
that's all it is.
Yeah.
I like your princess's little headband here. It's almost like she's a blonde Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I kind of I based her look a little bit off Lauren Southern, and it kind of evolved from there.
And of course, the as traditional art goes, the bad guy is this hulking figure in the background.
Oh yeah. If you were if you came of age in the '90s, Spawn was a big deal, and one of my favorite villains was Overkill. So I wanted an Overkill style of villain.
He's got that look to him. He's all armor, all sharp, pointy things. Looks like some missiles tucked into his back there.
The twist is though he's this hulking figure on the outside, but inside he's just this weak guy, and that's a perfect metaphor for these Antifa types. They're strong when they're in a group, but by themselves they're weak.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's that's a metaphor. That's the old stick metaphor. Every single stick is weak, but you get a bundle of them and it's strong.
yeah,
Of course, Antifa types aren't even strong together. They're just loud together.
yeah,
They're harder to wrangle by the cops together. That's what the problem is.
yeah.
Now you are giving people a second chance to get Melvin #1. Is this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
this
'cause
second printing, or you have leftovers of the first one?
Yeah, I did have a small kind of supply of ones left over.
Oh, and then we
So
jump into now. I'll have to look. But was the first one in color? I'm sure it was.
no, there was a colored version. That was the Dillard cover. and then like it was, the other two were just in it was just black and white.
Okay.
There was like
It,
two variant covers and then the original cover.
and this one's got two variant covers as well, I believe. It's got this one here, which is that Vic King?
Yeah, it's by Vic King, and then there's the Dillard cover. It's I guess they refer to it as a virgin cover. In other words, there's no logo or
Right.
yeah. But there's also the I added some add-on perks, and there's the Melvin #1 colored edition. That's another Dillard cover, and then the ash can that is like an Alice Pandy crossover. Andy created Pandy, so it's like a crossover ash can, and that's an add-on
Okay.
perk.
Now the interiors are black and white, though.
Yeah, the interiors are black and white.
Are you doing the interior art?
No. Vic did like 13 pages out of it, and then Andy did a page, and then the rest are finished off by Sid Tellis.
Okay.
Tellis.
A true team effort here.
Yeah, it's a group effort. But Sid's doing Melvin 3, which will be the next issue.
Yeah, the thing about a black and white book like this is you don't know what color skin anybody's got.
No, you don't.
If it wasn't for the cover, you wouldn't know that Melvin was yellow.
Yeah.
So, have we had an origin of Melvin yet? I mean,
I think there's going to be a web comic that I'm going to do on Webtoons. And I think there's going to be another story on Webtoons that's going to be the origin of where the cult came from.
okay. How did you settle on the name Melvin? Because it's not really the
Not
tough
very
guy name.
not unorthodox. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Mad Magazine, and as a kid, they had a card set out of all the covers from the beginning of Mad Magazine. It was still considered a comic book to, of recent years, and that was way back in the 90s. And it's a name reference on the first issue. You have these two parents cowering in the back, and they're like, "It's disgusting, it's hideous," and this little kid's picking his nose, and like, "Oh, it's Melvin."
Yeah, I remember that cover now.
Yeah, and so I just kind of and Melvin was something I thought of in middle school, and I had done nothing with for years. I had a bunch of characters, and didn't go anywhere. But when your boy Zach was doing Jawbreakers, and everybody else was kind of getting into making their own comic books, I decided to kind of dig them back up.
It was a time that inspired a lot of people to get into comics. I've heard so many stories of how people had like you, this character in my head since high school. Finally had a reason to bring the page. So it's Zach and the whole CG birth, whether people hate it or love it, it changed the landscape of comics for the better.
And now recently I've been thinking, crowdfunding it can't last forever. So where does one go from there?
Yeah, there is that. I mean, crowdfunding made it easy to get your book in front of people because everyone was going to the Walmart of crowdfunding. They were going to Kickstarter, they were going to Indiegogo, and they would see it being promoted and stuff.
Yeah.
But if they stop promoting, if they stop allowing you on the platform, then
they're shadow banning you. It's like, okay, where do you go from there then?
Yeah. Well, they're not even shadow banning now. They're just flat outright eclipsing them because you can't even find them on Google, and they won't let you go in demand. They take you straight out of your campaign when you're done. And they won't say why.
Yeah, that's true. So the question is, how do we evolve to survive this? Because I mean, if they decide to pull the rug from everybody tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of people that just disappear.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of smart people out there who have skills, and I'm sure that some of them can come together and come up with some sort of a crowdfunding platform.
Well, I mean, I've heard one guy decide he's going to do he's going to do Patreon. Like he's going to have some kind of like some of his material is going to be on Patreon. I'm like, that's a thought.
That's a thought, but that's just skipping to another place where you can get shadow banned later. Because there have certainly been people who've been banned and kicked off of Patreon.
Possibly.
Yeah,
I know
you
that
need to have the place that's yours.
Yeah, I know that people like John Della Rose is doing he does Patreon. I think he does Amazon and various other things besides Kickstarter because he can't use Indiegogo anymore.
Right.
Which is
right.
weird.
He's been booted off of there.
Yeah.
And I believe he has a lawsuit. In regard to that.
I don't know the full story about that. So, but you know,
my theory is that the lawsuit might be tangentially related as to why people are getting shadow banned now.
That's what a lot of people are thinking too.
So it's a possibility.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but somebody's just gonna have to come up with their own site and make it.
There's a lot of website builders, Wix.com, various other places.
Mandy Summers has her own site. Michael Bancroft has the cgnow.net, which is a link farm. Basically, it points to where it's at. So right now they're pointing to Kickstarter and demands, but if you just want to put it on your own website, then just change the pointer.
There's a few lesser known but alternatives to Kickstarter and Indiegogo that I've heard about.
Yeah, there's Crowdfunder, which is starting to get some speed. I've seen some people really make money on that. It's Crowdfunder without the E.
Shopify. I've heard interesting things about Shopify.
Shopify is a way to get things out there. Of course, if you've got a PayPal account, PayPal comes with its own store. You can set up a PayPal store.
I got PayPal. I also got Venmo. So
yeah, so you can just put things up there on the store. I've got Square. And I put all the books that Critical Blast has published.
I have not looked in the Square.
Yeah, you can put things up on Square because if you put your items in for conventions and you're scanning them at the conventions, you can access that same item list through the web and make it a store. Share the link out, and people can just go there anytime and buy online, and you'll get an invoice or a purchase order, and you just fulfill through the mail.
So I've been kind of thinking about, okay, I think my primary focus is to make sure everybody who backed this campaign gets their book after the campaign's over. And then whether I want to keep it in demand or not, I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, fulfillment's that's one of the things I think most people don't think about when they do their campaigns. At least they didn't used to. Everybody thinks about it now. I hope. because they've already heard the nightmares like, oh my God, I've actually made a comic. Now I've got to do stuff with it.
Yeah. Well, I've already ran into a few people who told me straight out they don't back anything anymore because they've been burned too many times.
Yeah, because people wouldn't fulfill or didn't know how to.
They've been like 3 years late. There's a guy that was talking about he's just getting books now from like 2 years ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And there's still there's campaigns that are 6 years old and still haven't fulfilled. 2 years old is about the time I start to worry about them.
And that it shouldn't be. This shouldn't be happening, in my opinion.
No, I think 6 months to 8 months is an acceptable, and when I say acceptable, I mean put up withable window of being late.
That's what one of my friends said. He goes 6 months, and if it's beyond 6 months, then he's had enough with it.
Yeah, if it's beyond 6 months, there better be a lot of updates. There better be progress shown, and there better be a reason why it's late. It's like, yeah, we got 18 of the last pages done, and an earthquake hit, so we'd have no power right now. Okay, got it.
I think the guy who was doing that book Colossals, he had a reasonable excuse. There was a thing, his artist had a thing that happened in his country.
Yeah,
and they had to they refunded everybody and then started again. So
yeah, because he I don't know if it was like a tidal wave or what it was, but it was
something like
a natural disaster.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's like I was telling my boss about that because he was getting a lot of flack for refunding everybody, and he goes, "No, that's a responsible thing to do. In fact, he doesn't even have to tell you why he refunded you. He just he he just felt there was a thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, updates go a long way towards keeping people happy,
Yeah.
especially if they're showing progress, even if it's slow progress. My advice has always been that you put up an update every 2 weeks, even if your update is to say, I have nothing to say. Because,
Hey,
yeah,
thank you. Somebody said my book looks great.
it
Thank
does
you.
look great.
Yep.
Thank you, Canales. Glad that you're here. Because here's what's happening. If you update and say, I've got nothing to update right now, but I'm making an update. If you do that twice in a row, you're going to be sick of seeing no updates, and you're going to make something happen so that you have something to say in the update.
Yeah. I think that not someone I'm. Sorry, my bad.
He is.
And you're welcome.
He is the Canales. Yeah, I'm looking at this page here. This is some awesome black and white.
That's done. That's a page that Sid did.
Yeah, and I say black and white. It's not really even black and white because there's
gray
black
tone.
and white, and then there's this monochrome thing here with all the gray shading and stuff.
Oh yeah, Andy did that. It was drawn by Sid, and then like Andy inked and gray toned it. And that's it. That's the ash can he did.
So this is an add-on that you can get, Toys and Monsters.
Yes.
Is this in the Melvin universe, or is this just his own thing?
It's well, I'd say it's kind of a standalone, but it's the first time I ever had one of my characters cross over with another character.
Okay.
No dialogue. It's all panels.
And it's her.
Sure. Yeah. That'd be Alice.
Fighting against these two lizard creatures here in a pit, some kind.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of action there.
Oh yeah, that panel right there. That's an awesome panel. And there's going to be cards.
So you'll have a card of Melvin firing off that giant laser weapon.
Yeah, and there's one. I think one of Alice, and I think there's one of Moldark, who's the villain. And then of course I updated that. I did the an add-on perk, which would be another chance to get Melvin #1, the colored version.
This is the color version of Melvin #1 with the Dillard cover. It's almost like a Captain America motif there.
But what's better than one Dillard cover, but two Dillard covers?
Yeah, Dillard should be doing voiceover work.
He should.
Dillard has that.
At least working in a radio station or something.
I know, he's got that voice for it. I told him that before. I was like, you should not be doing podcasts. You should be doing your own show and interviewing people.
WKRP.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. Because it's Thanksgiving coming up, folks. And if you don't get it, you need to watch that episode. You can get
I wish they
everything.
put that back on television.
They should. Yeah. Well, is it not on like MeTV or something?
It probably is. I know. Growing up in Washington State, the TV station that showed all the old programming was KSTW. So that's the only way I saw like WKRP or like they had the Brady Bunch or Happy Days or something.
Oh yeah, all the syndicated stuff.
Yeah, Batman, the 60s Batman, which at the time I thought was lame, but now I get that they're taking the piss out of Batman.
Well, is like for a long time I was watching Nick at Night, and that was Nickelodeon during the day with all the kids stuff, and then at night they would show like the old TV shows, the I Love Lucy, the Bewitched, the I Dream of Jeannie, and then somewhere along the way it became Everybody Loves Raymond and George Lopez. I'm like, wait a second. These were just on regular TV not that long ago. I'm not going to do the math because I'll be, feel old. But
they started putting out,
when I realized that was classic television and I had watched it first run, I'm like, no, it's not what I want anymore.
King of Queens showed up on there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and never left. It was just like all night long. But then MeTV came along, and that's where they made what Nick at Night used to be. I figure 20 years from now they'll be showing the the 90s sitcoms again.
Well, I mean, like right now, what's considered oldies now is 60s and 70s, and then when it was the 80s, it was like 50s and 60s. Now it's
Yeah.
60s and 70s.
Yeah, it's what was it? Doonesbury did a strip years and years ago, guys in the elevator, and the music is, Born to be Wild. And the elevator opens up, and it's the announcer on the radio is like, you're listening to KEZK Light Rock. I bet you thought you were jamming out, didn't you?
Oh, it's kind of weird when Marilyn Manson or something is considered oldies.
I know, and it'll happen. It'll get there.
Oh, they're already referring to it as classic alternative.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's changed since then is that there are so many avenues now for output. Sirius XM, there's a channel that's nothing but 80s. They never have to change. You don't have to say, if you don't say classic, then you don't have to redefine what classic is. 80s is always 80s. 90s will always be 90s. You can just tune where you want to go to get what you need.
Yeah.
And same with streaming now. And I won't go so far to say I'd predicted, but I communicated with people in the know. It's like, you know what? One of these days, you won't have to have DVDs. There'll be enough content of a certain type to where you can just turn to the superhero channel, and it's nothing but Superman and Batman and the Spider-Man cartoons and everything. And sure enough, we kind of got that with streaming. DC had its own channel for a while.
DC?
Yeah, there was the DC Universe. You could it was a streaming service. It was nothing but DC product. It didn't last because they mismanaged it, didn't have enough, and it got folded into HBO Max.
Well, who knows how long Marvel will last with this latest debacle. Like, I was kind of cracking jokes about it, but it was the Wakanda Forever movie that I heard about, and it's just the idea was just so stupid that it's almost self-parody.
It's the Namor movie. There's no black. It's not the Black Panther movie. It's the Namor movie. They should just called it Namor and just brought in Wakanda as a support storyline.
Yeah, I just what they could have easily taken the storyline from Atlantis Attacks and kind of modified it, but they didn't. It almost sounds like a parody of itself, really.
I have no plans on watching it. I'm not interested in it. I've missed a lot of Marvel movies. I want to see Multiverse of Madness because that one sounds interesting, but I haven't seen WandaVision, and I understand that it sort of springs out of that. So I don't have
most of
Disney.
these Marvel movies are getting just meh, and I mean, like, I know people hate Thor: Love and Thunder, but compared to the other Marvel movies, I would say it was probably a little better, but that's not saying much. And Doctor Strange was even better than Love and Thunder. So it's just like that's not saying much either, because Love and Thunder was terrible.
Yeah, well, I'm all for having the humor in a superhero show. I know that DC's and Warner stuff kind of sticks to being gritty too often, but Marvel kind of overdid it and turned it into a superhero sitcom. I just don't feel the action really anymore.
And then I'm just kind of getting burned out from Marvel movies in general. It's just like, this was cool like a few years ago. Now it's just kind of annoying and stupid.
Yep, it's they're not giving us anything new, and they're getting rid of all the stuff that was good.
Yeah.
So they aged out Tony. They killed Tony Stark. They aged out Steve Rogers.
Yep.
Like, James Bond has been doing movies for years, and they don't have the same actor all the time. Nobody seems to really care when you recast somebody.
Here's a question I've always had about like the new Captain America, and I've always thought, why isn't Falcon good enough to be himself, but he has to take a white mantle to be something?
That's
right. It's like, why can't he just be Falcon and just carry the shield out of solidarity for his friend?
Yeah, and it's not like we haven't already shown in Winter Soldier that Captain America can quite literally run laps around the Falcon. So why was he the next in line to take the mantle? Which isn't say that he's not a good guy, but he already had an identity. Here's the thing: he didn't really have the identity in the Marvel movies as well established as he did in the comics. I would have loved to have seen Marvel just do a Falcon solo film the way Falcon
why not?
Get something street level, because Falcon was a street level kind of fighter. He wasn't the military wearing. Tell you the truth, I don't know the origin of the comic book Falcon to know how he got his wings and flying and everything, or how he was able to talk to a bird.
If they just wrote a really good story and they gave him his, he already had his own thing.
Yeah, but in the movies, it was like, hey, when in the military we were training on these flight wings, and they let me take a pair home. Because that's what the military does. Well, this project's not working out. Yeah, go ahead and you can have it. We spent millions on it, but it's yours.
I think that the problem is it's just oversaturation. It used to be cool. Now it's just like, okay. Yay, another Marvel movie.
We need a fresh superhero, and doesn't have to be Marvel or DC.
At least, I mean, say what you will about the 90s, but at least there were several things to choose from. You had like the Spawn movie, even though it was crappy.
Yeah.
Good soundtrack. Good soundtrack, though.
Good soundtrack. Better animated series on HBO than it was a movie.
I mean, you had like The Crow, or you had you had
Blank Man. It had Blank Man and Meteor Man.
So was it Dark Man?
Oh well, Dark Man was a great horror kind of noir superhero kind of character. Canales, thank you so much for popping in, man. Appreciate you being here as long as you were. So looking at the tiers you got here, just so we can make sure that people know what they are, you get everything for $35, which is
I can't beat that. $35. Some people are charging more than $35.
Yeah, because you're getting number one, you're getting the alternate cover of number one. You're getting wait a second, I read that wrong. You're getting number two, you're getting number one, the alternate cover of number two, the digital number two, all three of the cards, and the ash can. So that's a heck of a deal. This is two digitals here. Hey, look at that! I just kind of clicked on it.
You get the you get Melvin too, and then you get the ash can as kind of a part of it.
Now, here, folks, be aware. If you want to tip,
don't tip.
You want to tip Tim, that's fine, but this isn't doing that. Make sure you've got to go to other amount, and you've got to leave 0 in there, because Indiegogo doesn't deserve it.
I don't understand why they're doing that, but
to get money.
Yeah.
Because 5% of your take is not enough.
And it's like, where's that money going to?
It's a tip. It's literally a tip. I don't even think they have to claim it as taxes.
Yeah,
they do. But
and of course, the second chance to get Melvin number 1, because I don't think enough people got the first, the first comic book.
Well, that happens a lot.
Know I existed.
Yeah, a lot of books, they won't get the first one. They'll see the second one. They're like, okay, it went as far as the second one. Now I'd like to get the first one and the second one. And I do that with a lot of stuff too.
So if you're a small creator and you're not like you're not as well known as the big boys, always include a second chance.
Absolutely, a catch up.
That or a digital, because some people from overseas, they don't want to have to, can't always afford to get that.
Yeah, the shipping will kill them. It's even with as many tricks as I pull off to get digital shipping cheaper, or digital shipping international.
That's why you always knock out domestic first, and then you worry about overseas.
Yes, that's exactly what I do, because I got to package them all up at once. Melvin number 2 is only $10. Look at that! I clicked on it twice again, so we're gonna just back it up here.
It's like a part of you wants to back one of those perks, but you haven't decided.
Apparently, that's what I'm doing. I'm like, just keep going to get. I'm going to go through it again anyway, because I want to see the shipping on it. Now look at this. On this one, they did not force a tip. That's interesting. They just forced the tip on the
Yeah, they're
digital.
very selective with that.
Okay, so it's $5 shipping, which is extra super cheap. I honestly don't know how you're pulling that off. Well, yeah, I do. You don't have to pay me. Because I'm like, it's at least $7, but then I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a $2 handling charge. So yeah, $5. If you're doing it yourself there. So that's definitely doable.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
$15.
I'm also a small time creator, and I think I can, I'm still not on people's radar yet. I'm more worried about building an audience.
The way to do that is, it's just get on all the shows. Better shows than this one. Get on shows that people watch and
Yeah.
talk about your product here. And then you got very few tiers actually. We're at the end of them here already. This is the combo where you can get 1 and 2 and the card.
Yeah.
So I like the flavor of this. It kind of reminds me of old heavy metal.
Yeah.
Where you were seeing like the newer creators come on and they were doing the interplanetary.
The best part about that is about those movies were that the soundtrack was a part of the story.
Yeah,
It really added to what was going on in the scene.
yeah, the movie was definitely that way, but the movie, of course, was adapted from the long-running magazine, the comics magazine.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, which
and,
is what one of my inspirations was like, Transformers the movie or Heavy Metal 2000, because the soundtrack just added to each of those scenes. And so when I'm thinking of ideas, I'm always listening to music, or if I'm kind of doing a rough draft of a script.
Yeah, I was disappointed with Heavy Metal 2000,
A lot
and
of
I
people
don't think
were,
I
but
would have been
still
if
good.
they'd have
Still
called
a
it
real good
Fact 2.
soundtrack.
Yeah, killer soundtrack, but I think because Heavy Metal was this anthology of multiple stories, all different stories, and I was expecting that again, and instead I got a feature length Fact 2.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
why
if
they
they'd have
call it
just
Fact
marketed it
2.
as
Yeah.
Heavy Metal's Fact 2, people would have come to it more.
Yeah. They
Or at
should have
least
probably done like a bunch of related stories or something in between, maybe.
I would have liked that. But yeah, this is just, a couple of bare boobs away from being heavy metal. So
Yeah, yeah. In my head, I was thinking rated R, but sometimes, but the artist interpreted it as PG-13, and I'm like, all right, that's
yeah,
interesting.
that'd work.
That works.
Why limit your audience when you can get more readers with a PG-13 than you can with an R?
But I kind of like that the end, the result of that scene right there, because you have to kind of imagine the other side, what's beyond that panel right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can tell the city structure it's been falling apart. I don't know if it's all crumbling right now or if it's like Thundar the Barbarian. It's been that way since the moon passed over or something.
Well, it's been gone through. They really messed that whole city up.
And they're not happy that oh, I hope he hasn't killed Moldark. That would be a terrible spoiler since he's the main villain.
I'm not telling.
He killed Moldark. Azarka will have his head. And they're all wearing these sacks on their heads.
All these hoods.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little
Destroyed
bit.
cities, people wearing masks over their face to conceal their identity.
Kill
Sounds
'em
like
all.
it's been done before.
Oh, pulling from life.
Yeah.
So where does Melvin #2 leave us in terms of your overall story arc? Are you going for a 4-issue story? Or are you going for an ongoing
That
thing?
seems to be the way it should be done. And it's like, if you're doing a story arc and it's just a basic story arc, you should always do 4 issues, because that's when I was a kid. Like, all the original Image comic books were always they're a little miniseries, because they all started out as miniseries except for Spawn.
Yep.
They always did like 4 issues, except for Youngblood, which I think was rushed. As a kid, this is so cool. But now as an adult, I'm like, well, this is still cool, but it looks like it was rushed towards the end there.
Yeah, I wasn't happy with Youngblood, but I loved the next Youngblood.
Yeah.
And it was like late in the game for Image. I mean, a lot of stuff was starting to fall off. Alan Moore had started to do some stuff like the 1967 or 1969 books, but but somebody had done Youngblood, and I think it went for all of 2 issues. I was like,
Yeah.
I was reading that one. I liked that one. It's like when Alan Moore was writing Supreme, I was really digging it then. That was a great run. That was the Silver Age Superman done well. For anybody who hasn't read Alan Moore Supreme, it was Silver Age Superman on steroids. I mean, just as goofy and as serious as.
Although I'd say that even though Image was doing what Marvel and DC already had, they were the grittier, cooler version of them. And when,
Yeah.
Me being a kid at the time was like, oh wow, But I kind of imagine that Supreme is kind of how Superman would have been in real life. I mean, bullets bounce off you. You have more power than a normal person. I kind of think that guy would probably be a dick in real life.
Yeah, and you had the whole different colors of he had the hall of mirrors where it was just all this weird goofy technology stuff from alien planets. He had a cousin Suprema. He had the dog. Yes, Supreme was definitely an epic book. That was the one I really liked reading. So you're looking to do 4 issues then?
Like I think I had a lot of issues. He really made him like this ego-driven superhero. Like he always had to have the glory. He had a villain that was kind of like Lex Luthor, only more of a psycho.
Yeah, he was. And but getting back to the miniseries stuff, you're right. That was even Marvel was doing everything was a 4-issue miniseries. I can't remember what the first 6 issues.
Deadpool, before Deadpool ever had our ongoing series, there was like a bunch of like miniseries of Deadpool.
Yeah, because he was a joke. He wasn't supposed to last. He was a joke about DC's Deathstroke the Terminator, and he became more popular as a character, I believe.
He got more popular because this one guy, I don't know who popularized them, but kind of
Rob Liefeld.
Who Deadpool was.
It was Rob Liefeld, and then
somebody else took over. Rob Liefeld started it, but I think somebody took over or got hold of the character and made him what he is today.
Yeah, made him that whole fourth wall breaking, turned him into Ambush Bug from DC, basically.
Yeah. What was that one epic rap battle of history? They had like Boba Fett versus Deadpool, and Boba Fett's diss on Deadpool was, "You stole Spider-Man's eyes, Wolverine's powers, and Snake Eyes weapons. Your comic book sloppy seconds."
It's true. It's true. He did. He's got healing powers that heal him back up to the point where he got the healing power. So he can't cure his cancer. He's a walking tumor, and he'll die of cancer if he loses his powers. But it won't go all the way to curing the cancer. Go figure.
Supreme was less powerful and more vulnerable than Superman. Right.
Yeah. Oh, that was it's comic book physics, folks. That's how it works. So after your first 4 issues, then are you going to do more Melvin? I mean, do you have a lot of stories?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like people don't know our characters outside of this little community, what they call a community. So,
he kind of looks like Rambo in First Blood, but if he was colored yellow.
Yeah, it's kind of that Rambo factor there, I guess. Rambo, John Carter, anything I liked about quote unquote 90s comics. But
right. Well, I'm going to give it a quick refresher at the top to see if. And by the way, folks, the link to this is right below the video. Don't trust Indiegogo to search for it. You might not find it. God forbid. But if you follow the link below the video, you'll be taken straight to it. We did get a backer during this show here. You went from 7:15 to 7:30.
Wow. Thank you.
We did our, yes, thank you, whoever did that. This is our shake and bake moment.
It's shake and bake, and I help.
So somebody
I remember that. I remember that one.
Classic commercial. We play that every time somebody in the chat helps a campaign by contributing to it. So that makes me feel like we're accomplishing something when folks get in there and back. All right. Well, let's end it on a high note then. And Tim, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you being here. And
Oh yeah,
letting
it's
us,
a blast
talk about
coming out. Yeah.
And everybody in the chat, of course, we appreciate you being here. We don't have a show without you. I like to say we're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise. And while you were here, as always, we just hope you had a blast. Good night.